All right, welcome everyone to the Instrumentation sync on the 23rd of January 2024. I got the first topic, and it's wonderful Tableau. I don't know how familiar everyone is with Tableau, but we're switching from Sisense, our dashboarding, data visualization tool, to Tableau. And that's been an ongoing transition for a while now. You might have seen that pop up here or there in the What's Happening at GitLab channel. And it's going to get serious in the sense that on the 31st of January, or I guess maybe on the 1st of February, Sisense is going to mostly stop working for us. There's only going to be a few remaining dashboards, specific ones that might be accessible. Otherwise, there's not going to be no possibility to access things. The dashboard SQL and so on, or if you ever created visualizations or anything, is still going to be preserved in a Git repo. So if you didn't know that, there's a Git repo backing Sisense. Whenever you created something, it got automatically created in that Git repo, and so you can actually look it up there if you're afraid of missing or losing some crazy SQL you wrote at some point. That's not going to be lost, but you're not going to be able to access these things anymore. Tableau is the replacement, and I created an access request for everyone to get Explorer access in the group. So we need to, I think by default, everyone in the company should get viewer access and be able to view charts. But to be able to do more than just viewing and looking at things, you need to have some kind of additional access. There's multiple levels of that. I can also link the documentation on that, but in general, what's important to us is that we, as Explorer, which is the access are now requested for the group, we can create visualizations, but that's only based on published data sources. So you cannot write custom SQL anymore. I personally was able to get creator access. I know that Tanuja got creator access and then it was revoked again because they want to limit the amount of creators, because apparently the creator licenses are much, much more expensive than Explorer licenses. So you need to have a good reasoning why you need creator access. That's not to say that we cannot get creator access to more people in the group. It's just that we need to have the reasoning for it. And reasoning for it is not, I need to create a dashboard once in a blue moon kind of thing. The important thing is also we can, like, if you need to analyze something for yourself or access, like if it's only within the group that we need to, I don't know, debug something, figure out like on a lower level in Snowflake, is the data correct? Is something going in? We can fall back to Snowflake. I mean, all of us should have Snowflake access. If that's not the case, please check if you have Snowflake access in Okta. Should be part of your Okta tools that you have access to over there. If that's not the case, then let me know. Then we can make sure that it gets requested and approved by me. Because that way we can still do SQL queries and work with the data directly. Unfortunately, that's not going to help us to share outcomes with people beyond us and the data team. So if it's something that's about us, the data team and so on, we can always work with SQL, I guess. If it goes beyond that, if we need to, I don't know, visualize something quickly or debug something quickly with someone outside of that group, then Tableau, again, is also important to us. Or if it's about creating a more long-term visualization, we can then try to work with the Explorer access. If this doesn't work out, we can talk to the data team, or in this case, me, as long as I have the creator access, to get set up. But that's something also we have to try out now, like how well we can work with the access we get. As soon as everyone has Explorer access, there's also some tutorials to go through, which explain a bit about how Tableau is working. It has much more drag and drop capabilities, for example, and so there's a lot of things that, yeah, maybe are kind of helpful to understand before then jumping into creating visualizations or anything like that.
Do we know if the future intention is to have all of engineering have like default provisioning for Tableau? So like, will new hires get Explorer access?
I actually don't know. That's something I have to look up. As I'm not let's say it that way, I'm not aware of that it's the case right now. Right now, everyone's at least for Explorer, everyone that wants to have that access needs to kind of distinctly request it. But it's a good point. I'm also not really sure what how the pricing relationship is between Explorer and the levels below that, like how much of a difference that makes, if that's actually a concern as well, or if it's really just the jump from Explorer to Creator.
Yeah. So there's a read-only level below Explorer. Okay.
Yeah. If you look into the access requests that are linked, there's 3 types of access that you can request. The bottom one is, like the lowest one is called Viewer, which is only just about actually looking at things. And then the middle one is Explorer, allows you to create visualizations, but only with these exported data sources. And then the last one is Creator, which I guess I mean, honestly need to kind of dive into more of it myself, but it should allow you to do most things and really start with low level. Piotr, you have a point?
Oh yeah. This actually breaks the workflow we have with looking up like certain metrics from metric dictionary, because now you click a button and you get a Sisense query into your clipboard that you can paste into Sisense and get the data. Obviously, that will cease to work at the end of the month. So I was wondering how otherwise we can direct people to how to help people look up those values when they want to. If that's possible from like having a data source in Tableau and maybe selecting a particular metric. I don't know.
Yeah, so Tanuja already created an issue for that. So it affects the metrics dictionary. It affects also things like we have SQL queries in our docs, which don't really help anyone anymore now because you cannot really put them anywhere if you don't have Snowflake access. Yeah, so for now, like in the metrics dictionary, we might just remove the queries until we have a solution that works. At least for the docs, I'm also gonna immediately or reach out to the data team if they have specific dashboards or views that they recommend. And if we don't, then I think we need to make sure that those are getting built. Because in theory, it shouldn't be too hard to, for example, build a dashboard or something that allows you to pick a service ping metric or to pick a snowplow event to look at. Yeah. but it might be that those like still need to be built. It's actually something that I also didn't realize early enough. Jonas, do you want to reiterate your question from before?
My question was just related to pricing. If we knew anything about how expensive Grada is, and like, I'm also curious now if it's if we have a pool of licenses that can be kind of allocated and revoked, and not revoked, but kind of taken back to the pool and reallocated, or if we kind of need to pay, like if I wanted access for I don't know, a week, is that feasible, or does that mean we have to pay for a month or a year or whatever?
That's a good point. I think that's also
Yeah.
something I can try to, or we can try to figure out.
And then I'm a little worried about not having access in case we need to like help with an incident in the middle of like outside your working hours. But that I'm only worried because I have no clue what we can do with Explorer, the Explorer license. So maybe we just need to to learn about that, and then we can kind of make a risk profile on if it's worth that more of us have access, or if it's fine with Explorer.
Yeah, so I think one thing to remember is that I think most of the data team has creator access, specifically also the product analysts and so on. So those we can always reach out to. And I think you're right. So like the access request is ongoing, but as soon as that's through, every one of you should get, I think you get like a code to access the learning materials. I mean, those from the ones that I already did, and I assume the ones for Explorer are not that different. It's not too in depth, but afterwards I would also urge everyone to just try out Tableau, try creating things, try clicking around and so on, try getting familiar with it, so that in the event we need to quickly do something, we're kind of prepared. And again, make sure that you have Snowflake access. I think that's also the important part, because that means that we actually have access to the raw data. All of us are familiar with SQL. When push down comes to shove, like working with raw SQL is faster anyway, and easier to oftentimes to communicate with the data team. So that's, I think, important that we make sure that everyone can like access Snowflake directly and work with there, since that's still a bread and butter, especially for incidents, where we quickly need to analyze things or quickly need to figure out what's actually going wrong with our metrics. In general, just one more thing is that dashboards were all, or all official dashboards were converted by the different data analytics teams. The one that was converted for us is the Service Ping Health dashboard. That might also be a starting place for you to click around Tableau, explore it with data that you're familiar with, that you can like associate something with, and start trying to understand how it works, because it is very different to Sisense. If you've never worked with Tableau before, it's a completely different approach to data visualization, I would say. Any more questions regarding Tableau? Okay, all good then. Then the other thing that I want to bring up and just highlight once more, I think I also linked it. There's some changes regarding review status indicators and what works to and make sure that you don't get reviews. Mostly it's that the busy indicator no longer works. The aim behind that, so you can read through the Slack channel and so on. The aim behind that is to reduce review times. So I think that was a CTO level OKR also the current quarter, the one that's still running, to get review times lower. That's something that's, I think, generally perceived as a pain at GitLab. Also in this group, I've heard people complain about waiting long for reviews and having long kind of back and forths. Yeah. And one thing, I mean, again, please read through all the changes to make sure that you understand them. One thing I just want to highlight is that doing reviews for within this team, but also for other teams, is an important and critical part of our work. Because it was mentioned kind of in light of these changes also that sometimes that gets lost. And yeah, it's just that by habit or kind of naturally, it's easier to continue with your own work rather than doing a review, which might create a context switch and generally be perceived as high effort. But I think the thinking that we all need to adopt is that the further something is down, kind of or the closer something is to being merged, the more important it is to help out or to actually get it merged. So if you're working on something that's currently still in development and you get a review request, then the review request should trump that, because the review, something that's being reviewed, is already a step closer to getting to the customer, getting to provide value by being deployed. That's not to be said that everyone needs to check every 5 minutes if they get a review request, but it's good to make it like a daily habit or multiple times daily habit to do these things.
Yeah, I hope this fixes my main gripe with reviews, that sometimes you get like 4 or 5 in a row, because there are, I suppose, a few people in the pool, and the bot starts picking the same people over and over. So that should theoretically fix it. So I think that's a good change.
Maybe also try to observe that, because it is a test right now, so it's not yet a permanent change. And to my knowledge, also any feedback is welcome. So it's going to be interesting if you perceive a change, especially if you didn't use the indicators before, like if you didn't put yourself as busy, for example. If you feel like you're getting more reviews, less reviews, those kinds of things. If something changes for you, if also on the other side, if you feel like things are actually going faster or not. I mean, I think they're also collecting data around review times and so on. But it's also going to be interesting, like how it feels to everyone involved.
I really hope that it will. So I can tell that I'm kind of batching up more things in MRs than I should, mostly because the review process takes a long time now. And I really hope that it'll be easier to do small, feel more natural to do small MRs, which also makes it quicker to review.
You know, it is interesting though, because the like numeric like capacity limits were also added basically for the same reason of like spikiness and getting overwhelmed and burnout. And I think it's just kind of funny that we went full circle on it. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to have permanently stances 3, just to not get spikes, hopefully. But it's always a race condition anyways, I think, because until you actually get assigned 3 MRs, engine pod can like suggest you in several more. I think so. It wasn't ideal, but yeah, it mostly worked. Yeah, we'll see how this goes. I'm really curious.
Right, because there's no state, right, in the interval. Right, so it's only the input is only based on current, like what you're currently assigned to. So isn't
Yeah.
that right? So if it runs and if it's the pool is small, you might come up as the first candidate until you accept, well, until somebody assigns you. Yeah, okay. Then you can be kind of on a lot already.
Yeah, and it could also have like dependence on time zones, just because we've got like the cluster of people and ebb and flow. Certain time zones are going to have like worse hit suggestions like of reviewers at certain times. Yeah, just
Right.
something.
But you would expect that it would kind of be, there would be kind of a bias to the east, right? Because assuming people kind of cleaned out their reviews before they left, before they have plenty of capacity. And so there will be, but that's actually not very smart. You kind of want to assign it to people to the west because they will be working.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I think all that being said, it's not an easy problem to solve. It's like, yeah, I mean, if you have suggestions or anything, these are all MRs. Feel free to read through them. Feel free to make suggestions from and proposals, and anything that goes into actually making previews go faster is helpful. Because I mean, it is this chicken and egg problem of like if things go slow, people batch up things, and then things go slower. And the question is, how can you create like positive momentum? All right. We have an async question from Radovan, and we have also Jonas's show and tell and a short, and we're kind of short on time. What I suggest is that I can reply to Radovan asynchronously, and because that now takes too long to cover within the time we have left, or we're already at time. And Jonas, I think yours is probably gonna go quick, right? Or
Sure. That was just because I saw it there. And we can also skip it, but I think it takes like 2 minutes.
yeah. But let's go to your
Um,
point, and I'm gonna
yeah.
answer to Radovan asynchronously.
Sounds good. All right, let me share my screen. You see a Chrome chat here, maybe.
Yep. All good.
Pretty wide,
Yeah.
but it's good.
Pretty wide. Okay, maybe I don't know. Does this work?
No, because you shared the full screen.
Because
damn
of
it.
your resolution.
I mean, you can.
Okay. So okay.
But maybe. Oh yeah. Okay. Either redo it or zoom in.
Let me just share this one.
My screen monitors.
Yeah. So
that's better.
Better. Okay. Right. Okay. So I wrote this migration in December and got it reviewed and everything, and thought it was all good. And then I came back from vacation, and there have been some deploy incidents because of it. It was what is it called? A post migration. So it didn't cause any downtime, but there was some problems. Like it didn't terminate, and I ran it locally and couldn't figure out what was going on. So the migration is So we had somebody who kind of hacked they wanted to count. What was it they wanted to count? They wanted to count merge requests, yeah. And so they didn't didn't have any way to do that. So they used a Redis HLL counter and kind of just provided the merge request ID into that. So that would count unique merge request created. So, but now we have the time framed total counts. So we wanted to migrate to that. And therefore I would write a migration that would, so there's a code change, which means we will start using keys like this. Keys like this plus the year and week suffix, instead of keys like this. And so all we have to do is find those keys with all the suffixes. They're set to expire, so there's not a whole lot, only the last up to 6 weeks. And then we have to we basically have to read it out with Redis HLO, and we have to increment the counter with that. And this is great because we can just deploy the code and start increasing these new counters, and then eventually this post migration will run and update here, update with the whatever was already counted under this, the Redis HLL metric until deploy. I don't know if you have, if you want to guess what is wrong. I don't know if you saw it already, because I had no idea. All right, I'll stop the quiz now. So scan each, yeah, right, takes a block, and it's implemented in a way that the client will call the server. The server will, so it's a paged protocol. So there's a block size, and so the server will look in the next block for matches, return the matches, and usually there will, since we only have 6 keys, the result will almost always be empty. I found out that we have 40 million keys in production, and that the window size is 10, or the block size is 10. So I guess it would terminate eventually, but no, there was nobody who deployed this that had the patience to to wait for that, which I think is pretty fair. No, I forgot to find the fix, but there's a fix merged already, and you can provide a count to, so you can provide the block size to scan each, and I think we went with 10,000, which runs in, I think it was about 30 seconds in production. Yeah, so that was surprising. I still really wonder why the 10 makes sense as a block size, but maybe you can do some heavier operations, so not to keep the server busy for too long. I don't know. So anyway, yeah, that's all I have to show and tell.
Good to know.
Right.
Thank you.
Because I was like, when I wrote this evaluation, I thought, okay, we shouldn't be afraid of this. And then I went on holiday in Quebec. I was like, damn it, we have to be afraid of it anyway. But yeah, but I don't think we should. We just need to know this little thing.
And I mean, I think also nobody knew about this really, or realized this until someone deeply researched it and figured out that the batch size is so small.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it feels like a recurring theme of the last weeks is latency between Redis and our server, or kind of
Yeah.
interactions with Redis, and that even Redis
Oh,
can
yeah.
get slow. It's kind of this thing of you assume you do anything with Redis and it's fast. Nope, if you do it enough times, it's kind of law of big numbers, it's going to be problematic.
Yeah, I just added, I mean, the thing is also in development, we don't have many keys, but also the latency is basically not existing because it's running on the same host. And yeah.
I mean, especially in that case, in your case, I mean, the main thing is going to be the latency, right? Just the fact that it takes like, I don't know, 10 milliseconds or something. If you do that whatever million times, 4 million times, that's still quite a bit of time.
Yeah. I actually asked a question about that in the Slack channel today. If anybody, do we have any metrics on like latency between systems, between what do you call, like services? Is that part of service thing? Like, do we have anything like, just for something like this? I mean, it would be, we use Redis a lot, and also we had this incident yesterday, and I was starting to maybe we should do some kind of batching and do like, we can write a Lua script that can update several keys at a time. I mean, that adds complexity, but in like, to make a decision about that, it would be nice to know what latency is, and potentially also how many keys we worst case update in a request.
So I don't know. I'm pretty sure we don't have these kinds of numbers for self-managed in the service ping. I'm not aware of any.
But we have some. What is it called? What are they called? The metrics. Kind of system metrics.
The Grafana
Prometheus.
dashboards
Now the Prometheus metrics that are reported, right?
Do you mean within service ping or in general?
I thought there was some in service ping.
Yeah, I think so, but I don't like. At least I don't remember anything about Redis. And it wasn't like but you should be able to look up these informations for production for GitLab.com.
Yeah, you should just take a look at the Grafana dashboards. It's probably somewhere in there.
Yeah.
No, but it could also make sense to have it for self-managed. I don't know if we can do it, but it is kind of important. Like it's our problem if somebody decides to deploy in 2 different data centers, like the Redis app and the Redis server. I don't know if it's our problem, but at least it's us that look bad when they cannot run a pipeline or anything.
Yeah, but I mean, it might make sense, but at the same time, like when it comes to Redis, like Redis is not only used by us. I mean, we're kind of just piggybacking on the already existing usage for caching and so on. So that's going to create a bigger problem. I'd assume that's then going to be debugged with solutions engineers, or I guess, or customers, like on our side. Yeah, I think, but it definitely in that. Well, the last few weeks should have raised our awareness around the limitations of Redis and the speed of Redis. So looking at the Grafana dashboards, figuring out what the latency is for us. Because especially like I think in the case of Redis, we now have, and this case of the incident yesterday that happened on self-managed, at least to my understanding from what I've gathered right now, there would have been signs of that already in production. Because the same endpoint is now also making problems for product analytics, and the same endpoint where so many events get created, even without our product analytics changes, was kind of timing out from time to time or had spikes in latency. So in theory, we could have figured that, like, we, also the people implementing metrics, could have already figured this out on production before it now hits someone on self-managed. So there is kind of, at least for this case, this is something we can somewhat debug on production, and if it goes very quickly there, it's not going to create incidents there. But I guess we're close to having timeouts and so on in production, and that just increases the risk that some self-managed instance, which might not be 100% optimized, is also going to run into the same problems or even more problems. All right, thanks a lot for sharing that. If anybody has an idea where to also maybe document that in a written form where people actually like remember to look at it, please do so. Or yeah, otherwise I think it's just something to keep in our minds, because it's not unlikely that any one of us might have to do a similar migration at some point again when a specific metric needs to be migrated or something. Otherwise, I just say thanks everyone for the attention, and sorry for kind of overdrawing time-wise. And then see you around, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.